I'd have to tell you some information that I don't think I should disclose to the whole audience.
Something happened, huh?
But let's just say our arrival was quick, about 2 hours.
Aw.
Nicely done.
Nice time.
Yeah.
When you're ready.
Who do I have to look at to start the time? Good afternoon. As most of you may now know, my name is Pierre LaFord. However, as you can tell from my appearance, I represent something deeper than just my name, my Scotch-Irish heritage. Despite the fact that my name comes from French origins, I still embrace my Scotch heritage. My interest in Ireland began at a young age. Who's ever gone to Thanksgiving and sat around a table and listened to stories? Well, that's what I like that. That's what sparked my interest. You see, my grandparents would always tell the story of how they came to America. My great-grandparents, they're Irish Americans. It starts with love, right? All you need is love. So, my great-grandfather proposes to my great-grandmother using a fake diamond ring, or synthetic diamond ring if you want to get fancy. So she's thrilled about the news. She goes and tells her father, my great-great-grandfather, about the news. The only problem being that my great-great-grandfather is the town jeweler, so he could immediately tell that the diamond was a phony baloney. So, flustered by the news, my great-grandmother decided to confront her new fiancé about the news. Now, there's something very small detail that you might have missed. He proposed to her on St. Patrick's Day. So she comes in furious and says, "Why would you give me a fake diamond? Our love is special and symbolic." A grin comes across his face and he says, "But darling, it's in celebration of St. Patrick's Day. I give you a shamrock." But in all seriousness, that story began to spark an interest in Irish culture. That interest began with hearing that story over and over every single Thanksgiving and Christmas. I began to become more and more interested with it. People would say, "Oh, you have beautiful hair." "Thank you. I got it from my Irish relatives." So, I began to research and find out everything and anything involving the word Irish. There were a few core questions that sparked in my mind. Why do we celebrate St. Patrick's Day? Why do I always associate leprechauns, the funny little green guys with a beard, with St. Patrick's Day, and Ireland? Why, when I hear Irish, I think of green? All these questions floating around inside of my mind. And why also do I dread when I don't wear green on St. Patrick's Day? So, let's first take a look at why St. Patrick's Day is so important in America today. In order to do that, we have to travel back in time. Back in the 1840s, potato was a staple crop used to feed many Irishmen. As many of you may have heard the common phrase potato famine, there was a disease that caused the rotting of the plant called blue blight, and it made it inedible. Unfortunately and sadly, it is an estimated 1 million Irishmen died of the potato famine. Fortunately, 2 million were able to immigrate to Australia and America. Today, as of 2014, there are 33.92 million Irish Americans in America, which is nearly 7 times more than the population in Ireland, the country today. So, I mean, you're bound to run into somebody who's of Irish descent, right? I mean, I'm talking to you guys today. So, you hear that? You hear the AC blowing. It's like the winds of Ireland. Imagine yourself there at the moment. You're having a great time. Evening shower just poured down. It's very cool. This is why the color green is associated with Ireland. You look around you and see the gifts that God has provided. You see the luscious green grass. That's why it's called the Emerald Isle, of course. There's another theory on why you hear green and you think of Ireland. The Irish flag is orange, white, and, you guessed it, green. Some people make this special little myth that those mischievous little leprechauns like to come out and pinch you when you don't wear green because you're not following tradition on St. Patrick's Day. I've been tossing that word around a lot, leprechaun. What is a leprechaun? A leprechaun is just a fancy way of saying a man fairy who goes around and balances out the magic of the world. Now, as crazy as that might sound, I'm going to step down from my soapbox for a moment. As crazy as that may sound, a leprechaun keeps balance to the force. When he's always trying to get his lucky charms, that means there's too much good in the world. He has to balance it out by taking them back and making sure there's a balance between good and evil. Most people grin and smile when I talk about silly things like leprechauns and Ireland, and maybe when I stumble up. But Irish heritage is a big deal. Wait, Pierre, I know what you're all thinking. Hold on, Pierre. Leprechauns? How can a country known famously for having Catholicism believe in leprechauns? Well, in order to do that, you have to take a look at Ireland beforehand, and it lies squarely on the feet of St. Patrick. Now, believe it or not, I don't want to offend anybody here as far as religious beliefs go, but St. Patrick, the legend goes, I'll say it like that, the legend goes that St. Patrick was, even though he's the patron saint of Ireland, he was born in England. I know what you're thinking, what? So, St. Patrick was captured by Irish raiders at the age of 16. After 4 years of deep prayer and hard labor, he escaped back to England. He was deeply touched by his Christian faith that had pierced his core growing up. He decided to take on the vocation of priesthood and eventually become a bishop. Instead of resenting the very people that enslaved him, he decided to have a heart of forgiveness and in fact traveled there to spend the rest of his life converting those from being Druids and pagans into being Christians. So, a lot of you might be wondering, where am I going with this? What's going to happen? A lot of you might be wondering, where am I going with this? What's going to happen next? We must embrace Irish culture. It's all around us every day, whether you know it or not. If you're afraid to jump on the parade party because you don't think you have Irish heritage, you're welcome to my parade, because everybody has a little bit of Irish in them. Paraphrasing a famous line from Mr. Jeff Foxworthy, if you have an apostrophe in your last name, you might be an Irishman. Thank you.